Anybody here from Europe or South America, Central America? No?
And did I
Okay.
forget one?
Cool. Nope, those are all the state time zones.
Except for Hawaii, I guess. Anybody in Hawaii?
True. Okay.
Alrighty, let's get started. So happy to have you guys here. Okay, Hannah, you want to just take it away with the inner voice?
Yeah. So we're going to start off by just talking to you guys about kind of the difference between the inner voice and the mind ego. So I'm going to go over the inner voice, the intuition, the soul. For us, for Nicole and I, we were talking about it, and it's all basically the different names to describe the same thing. So you might hear us reference it as inner voice, inner being, intuition, soul. If you are someone who affiliates with like the Christian religion, you could call it the Holy Spirit inside of you. It's all talking about that same piece of us. And the way that I like to describe it is basically the part of us that lives on after we die. So this part of us it's a label of inner wisdom, inner knowing. It's your highest self, your God self, etc. The part of us that lives on after death, and it's the deeper part of us that's connected to the whole universe. So my inner voice likes to show me this picture of like a giant quilt, and it's kind of like the whole universe is like this big, big, big giant quilt. And if you zoom in, you can zoom into like one patch of that quilt and you can see all the little threads and patterns and things. And that's kind of like one inner voice. But the more you zoom out, that inner voice is connected to this big, big giant quilt. So that's just kind of like an image if you're a person that likes imagery, that my inner voice likes to use us. And it also likes to use that image because a quilt, for me at least, is kind of a symbol of like unity and protection and comfort. And our inner voices always live in that space. So your inner voice is always at peace. It's always in a place of love for everyone and everything that you're in contact with. And it's always in this kind of place of being content. So how do I know what my inner voice or what my intuition is? It's the intuition and the inner voice, the soul, it is literally love. So it loves you. It loves everyone else, even the people that you feel like you can't stand. It loves the planet, and it's always searching for the greater good, like the highest path for you and for everyone else. Because ultimately, since we are all connected, what's good, what's really good on a soul level for you is automatically going to be good on a soul level for everyone else too. And that doesn't necessarily mean on a human level, but on a soul level, what's good for you is automatically good for the rest of the universe, because we are all connected in that one big quilt. So you can't like do something good for one section without it positively affecting the rest, and vice versa. If you do something that kind of negatively affects like one section, it's automatically going to ripple to the rest. So I kind of like to think of it, and I don't affiliate with the Christian religion, but just because I think that the Bible verse of Corinthians is a commonly known one where it talks about love being patient and love being kind. It's not proud, it's not rude, it doesn't boast. And this to me is a really clear description of what the inner voice is. It always has patience, it's always kind, it doesn't feel the need to boast or brag ever. It doesn't get happy when other people are hurting. It is hurting when other people are hurting, and etc. It's always super calm. And it's always kind of like that little, like if you think of the angel and the devil on your shoulders, your inner voice is always like the angel side. It's always the side that wants you to do the right thing. It's always the side that kind of like encourages you towards that path of positivity. And the other thing the inner voice always knows is that you are worthy. It always rests in a place of you. It knows that you are loved. It knows that you are worthy, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. So that's kind of like some just like different definitions or different ways to see the inner voice. And Nicole, I will hand it over to you to talk about the mind.
Okay. All right. Are we good with sound, Hannah? Okay. So I loved Hannah's definition and explanation of the inner voice, because the mind is like the complete opposite. The mind, if the inner voice is just this, angel on the shoulder, your mind's going to be, the little devil. And so what I love about the mind is that if you talk to your inner voice about the mind, it always says that the mind is a very important part of who we are and a part of this reality, this lifetime that we're in right now. However, the mind is also that part of you that isn't going to go on with you when we pass over. So I'm going to actually talk more about the ego, which is more of a subset of the mind. So the mind is just this, it's a brilliant processor, right? It processes information. It does help us solve problems to a certain extent, right? But there's a limit to what the mind can do. And so it's only a small part of the bigger picture. So your ego personality is the part of you that's not going to go on when we pass over, like our name, age, weight, height, career, how we think about ourselves, things like that. So the mind is limited, it's restrictive, and what it does is it kind of creates these problems, and it kind of creates a chatterbox. So if you notice, you're kind of getting on the wheel and you're going around and around and around and around. That's the mind. And the mind, unfortunately, it sees us as separate, right? It sees us as, it has the negative responses. It can be controlling, the part that's jealous, proud, egotistical, the superiority, all of those things, and might also get fixated on certain things about ourselves or other people. It also wants to value and place judgments as well. So the mind really is kind of more of the negative aspects of the self. So the ego, things like that. And it's just good to know that, it's fun in this work because we can kind of disassociate from the mind in terms of, so for this morning, I was having a little hamster wheel thoughts. And the first thing I went was, okay, Nicole, you are not your mind. You are not your mind. And that's where this work gets really fun, is because yes, we have this beautiful muscle in our head and it's very useful in this 3D reality. However, with inner voice work, we have the ability to kind of ease the brake a little bit, kind of fall into the now, and kind of disassociate a little bit with this ego mind chatterbox. Let me see. I'm just looking at my notes a little bit. And I love that, yes, so the mind is meant to keep us safe. And the safety that the mind creates, right, is an illusion of safety. So for the caveman times, it was necessary. And now we need our egos less and less. So the work that we do in inner voice work is just a beautiful work, because you are, again, able to kind of move aside and move beyond the limits of our human mind.
Yes, totally. I love that. And so one thing that I think is really important and kind of like helpful to realize is, I like to think of it in terms of music, because I was trained as a singer, but they, like, if you play two chords that are kind of in the same key and things like that, you get like a harmonious chord, right? So when our inner voice and our mind or our ego are acting in harmony with that, it feels good. It feels like a harmonious chord, and that's when we can feel happy and when we feel like free and at peace. And then if you think about playing two keys, usually like two keys that are right next to each other on the piano, they sound really like, they don't sound good together, and they, like, the vibration of the sound bothers your ears. So in music, they call that dissonance. And whenever the inner voice and the ego mind are not in harmony, whenever your mind is feeling a negative emotion, kind of like fear, sadness, guilt, shame, anger, frustration, any of those, it creates that dissonance. So like we said, the inner voice is always vibrating at this vibration of peace, love, harmony, acceptance, peace. I said peace already. Peace is like the biggest one I can think of, but anyways. And so then when the ego is vibrating at one of those one of those other emotions like sadness, guilt, shame, fear, frustration, anger, it creates that dissonance. So whenever you're feeling that negative emotion, it's because your ego is acting or vibrating in contrast to your intuition. So I hope that makes sense. It's kind of like a lot to take in. But basically, anytime you feel a negative emotion, you can trace it back to a root of fear. So like literally always, if you take any example that you felt in your life, you can always trace it all the way back, if you go back far enough, to a root of the mind or the ego being afraid of something. So this is an example of when your ego is trying to protect you. And I think one of the most important things when you start on this kind of like spiritual work is to not judge yourself, right? Because the ego automatically then, the way that I like to say it is like the ego clones itself, and then there's one ego that's judging, this ego is afraid and this ego is judging that ego for being afraid. And that doesn't get us anywhere, right? It just creates more judgment, and it just creates more blocks for us to move past. So so it's really important when you notice, when you start to become aware of those times when you're feeling negativity, to pause, find that root of fear, and then not to judge it. And then ideally go into your inner voice, which is what we're going to work on today. So I like to think of my ego as kind of like a child, like the child version of myself. And my intuition, or my inner being, my inner voice, as being like a loving mother or father caregiver. So whenever the little kid is throwing a fit or throwing a tantrum, or when it's scared, rather than the mother being upset with it, the mother, the ego, or the mother, the intuition or the inner being, is going to react in a loving way. So we just want to like, my inner voice is kind of like summary of this phrase, is it like, it'll just tell me, cradle the baby, cradle the baby, cradle the baby. So whenever my mind is kind of going crazy, I know it's a time that I need to just be there for my mind, or be there for the human part of me, and just cradle it like a baby, just love on it extra hard so that it can move past that place, rather than being angry with it or judging ourselves. Because after all, this mind, it's a part of the human experience, right? If we didn't have it, we wouldn't be here as humans. So we have to experience all of these different things in order to truly gain a human experience. And if you listen to any of like Abraham Hicks, they always talk about the contrast. Like, we receive these moments of lows in order to be able to appreciate the highs. Because if we just lived at this place of high our whole life, we would never really appreciate it for all that it is, right? So I'm assuming that if you're here, you're on this kind of spiritual path with us, and you've probably been in a place where you've experienced some of these lows. Maybe you're still experiencing them. And so the one way that I think is really helpful to look at it is it's just allowing you to be able to appreciate that state of peace and love and acceptance even more.
Well said, Hannah. And then you also had the really good stapler scissors analogy.
Yes. Do you want to go into that?
I think you can get that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the one analogy that we learned in our training was like the mind or the ego is like a stapler. If you are familiar with any like yoga teachings, we talk about non-attachment a lot in yoga, and the mind is like the exact opposite of that. It wants to attach to everything. So it's like this stapler that just wants to keep stapling more pages and more pages together, and it wants to attach. It likes comfort because it lives in a place of fear, right? So the mind automatically seeks comfort, which is almost always familiar. So it wants to take things in, and then it doesn't want change. Whereas our intuition, our inner being, is more like a scissors. So the scissors is something that it knows it's at peace, it knows it's love, it knows it's all connected, so it doesn't feel the need to hold on to anything, right? Our intuition, our inner being can easily detach from all kinds of things because it knows that it's worthy, it knows it's at peace, it knows it's in love. Even, for example, if you're in a relationship with someone and you know the relationship is time to end, your inner being knows that you still love them and they still love you, and it doesn't have a problem detaching in this human experience because it knows there's so much more. But the mind, this human experience is all that it has, right? And so it's super afraid to let go of anything. So whenever you feel yourself start to like gripping on, that's a sign of kind of like your mind kicking in. And we want to be able to relax and breathe. Breath is a huge part, as we're going to go into in a minute, and allow ourselves to let go, to cut out the things that we don't need anymore. So there's kind of a little nice analogy.
Hannah, I'll add on to that. I mean, it's all experimental at the end of the day, you know, and unfortunately we're not going to get it right, but we can keep trying. And it's just nice to know that we have the scissors, right? We have another option that's available to us when we're starting to go a little haywire. But I just want to, you know, just again state that this is really all experimental. Like, Hannah, wouldn't you say, like, it's kind of like just trying different things until we get it right? I know I've been working with Inner Voice for about 3-4 years now. So it's definitely been a process of trial and error, a process of collecting data, getting evidence, figuring out what works. And then what you'll start to realize is that you'll begin to trust the guidance that you get from your inner voice more and more over time. I know we both wanted to share like our awesome inner voice story. I have one around my job. So I've been doing inner voice work for a little while now, and actually I'm a former middle school teacher. So March 13th, I remember that day, it's a Friday, because that's when we literally had to pack up our classroom and we were told you have one day to just get your lessons together, tell your kids where they can find your online information, and then we left for the pandemic. Basically, we went home, never came back. And what's interesting is at that time I was working on a spiritual direction certification. So I knew I wanted to help people, but I hadn't started Inner Voice yet. April 1st, I believe, Hannah just dropped the certification. And so I did that. And I remember asking my inner voice, I said, inner voice, should I go back to school? Should I go back to teaching? And it said no. And I was like, okay, inner voice. I'm pretty sure me and my inner voice had a little argument, but in my heart, I knew I didn't want to go back. And my inner voice helped give me the validation. It helped give me, you know, the reasons why it feels like the school system was kind of keeping me limited. And so I was just like, all right, I'm pretty sure I asked my inner voice 2 times, should I not return to school? And I asked, will everything be okay? And it said yes. I asked, how will the money come in? X, Y, and Z. And I just literally took the leap of faith. And that's just my testament to like the wisdom you can get from using your inner voice. And it's going to say some crazy shit and some wild shit. But you know, it did take, you know, some time to trust it. So trust didn't come overnight. It came through baby steps. So yeah, baby steps. Hannah, do you want to tell yours?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to tell a different one, because I think some people have heard the one about the plane, but so about like 2 years ago, so like 2 years ago, I was in a relationship and I was like positive. We were both like positive that we were going to get married. And I had just like moved across the country to live with him. And we were like 3 months into living together. And my inner voice also likes to communicate with me a lot in dreams. And so I remember like I had a dream that we were in Amsterdam at the time, and I had a dream, like if you've ever been to Amsterdam, they have like all the canals with like the boats on them, and I had a dream that we were like in a boat on a canal, and there was like another boat that passed by, and he like got off and got onto the other boat, and I was like, what? And he was just like, bye, and I was just like, what the heck? And my inner voice just said like, it's time to go, and I was like, what? And my mind was like so scared because I had put a ton of like work, and I had just banked a lot on this relationship, and so had he, and we had like already talked about marriage plans. We had like our kids' names picked out, like everything. And so I had this dream, and it was just like super confusing for me, and I asked my inner voice, and it just said like, it's time to go. And I was like, no way, no way, no way, no way. And then I kept having recurring dreams after that for about a month, that where every dream was different, but in every dream somehow he left. And as that was happening, our relationship started to like spiral down and down and down and down. And not because of the dreams, just because of like different life things that were happening, until eventually, probably like 4 months after the first dream occurred, we ended up deciding to end the relationship. And after the relationship ended, I kind of like went back to my inner voice, because I was mad at my inner voice for a while. And I was kind of like, okay, like what do I do now? You know, like, okay, it's over, you won, what do I do? And it just like, my inner voice just, it told me that I needed to like really dance, because I had kind of like compromised a lot of my personal, a lot of my personal dreams to make this relationship work. And anyways, so I ended up going to Belgium for a month, and I did like a month-long dance intensive in Belgium. And I just found like this community there that that felt like exactly where I was supposed to be. So then I came back, and I was like, okay, well now what? Because that was amazing, but now like I have to do life again. And my inner voice just said like, go, leave, go. And so I ended up probably like 3 months after that, I had to finish up some contracts that I was in. But 3 months after that, I just ended up selling all of my things and ending my lease. And then I spent a year traveling and dancing around Europe and Asia. And I just came back from that when COVID hit. So, and in that time, it led me to meeting so many more people, and it led me to applying for a program, which I'm now going to be moving to London to do in September. So yeah, if you really trust the inner voice, it will take you to crazy places, literally and figuratively. So yeah, that's my story. I can attest for.
That's an awesome story. All right, you ready to get into the mechanics?
Let's do it.
Hannah, would you like to just open it up for a few questions before?
Yeah. So let's.
Okay.
Why don't people just type in the chat box if you have ever done inner voice work or intuitive journaling or anything like that? Does anybody have a place in their body where they feel like their inner voice comes from? If you do, just type it in the chat box. Heart, yes.
A heart. Stomach.
The gut, yep. Chest. Probably feels like a move. Head. Below the heart. Awesome. Yeah, so head, heart, and just above the stomach, below the heart. Yep. Heart and gut are two super common ones. Oh, neck. That's super cool.
I have heard neck before. I've heard throat. Uh-huh.
Heart, throat. Yeah, beautiful. So there's no right answer. It's totally dependent on you. And like Holly said, it can totally move. Like depending on the day, it can absolutely move. I tend to feel mine kind of in the place where of my sacral chakra, so like a little bit below my belly button. But that's just kind of me. Where do you feel yours, Nicole?
I tap into my heart space.
Yeah. The neck, sometimes it feels, sometimes it can feel more left or right. Yeah, I always am curious about when it's when it's kind of moving, like if there's like because of a blocked tension area or what. And I mean, it doesn't really matter in the end, as long as you can identify with a place in your body where you feel it. That's what really matters. And inner voices can come to us in different parts of the body on different days. It can come to the same part, anything. So one thing I say, I like, because I am a yoga teacher, I tend to tell people be careful about like the third eye, because some people who are big into yoga automatically think intuition. They go to their third eye. But for me, it's so close to where the mind is that it can be confusing. So if that's the place that you choose, that I'm not going to tell you that it's wrong. But I always say, like, be extra listening and extra attentive if you do hear it from your third eye, just because sometimes I feel like it's a little bit close to the mind for me. But that's just like my personal feelings with it. But anyway, so in order to tap into our inner voice, the first thing we have to do is find the spot. So everybody just go ahead and click right now. We can all close our eyes and just go ahead and feel into a spot in your body. And maybe it's the same place as usual today, or maybe it's a new place today, but kind of feel into a spot where you feel like your inner voice is coming from in this moment. And then once you kind of have that spot, Nicole will tell you the next step of how to hear your inner voice.
So once you find that spot, it's, a spot where you previously heard your inner voice or your intuition, your higher self, whatever label you want to put on it, you're going to do two things at the same time. So you're going to place your awareness into that spot and hold it there. And the other thing you're going to do at the same time is exhale. So just blowing the air out. And as you blow the air out, you listen. So placing your awareness into the spot where you normally hear your inner voice or your intuition. And then second, breathing and exhaling, just releasing everything and listening as you exhale. I'll give you a few seconds. Mm-hmm.
I think one thing that's super important to mention here is that whenever the mind is holding on to a thought, it will also hold your breath. So, and I've noticed this in so many areas of my life since doing the inner voice training, that whenever my mind is kind of like going crazy, I automatically hold my breath and we don't really notice it. So whenever you find yourself like caught in kind of the mind circle, just start exhaling and sending that awareness down. And as we go through these activities, if you find yourself not holding your breath, it probably means that your mind is trying to like tap in, because the mind is used to, like, we've all been living from the mind for a really long time, right? Most of our lives. So the mind, it's kind of like reluctant to give up its power, because we're trying to send our power into that inner voice and send our our awareness there. And the mind is kind of like, hey, like, what about me? I've been running this show for however many years. So it doesn't want to give up easily. So keep focusing on the exhale, because as you exhale, it's really hard to hold on to those mental thoughts. So that's one really important thing.
To add on to that, Hannah, just to use myself as an example, this morning, I'm going through a really difficult situation with a friend. So it's like one of those situations where it feels like a breakup. So you know how when you go through a breakup, your mind literally replays the questions and the conversation over and over. So this morning, one way I was trying to tap into my inner voice and I was struggling, and I tried a technique. So if it's like really, really, really bad, what I did is I visualized, and we say this in our spiel during a session, a microphone just like dropping down into where I hear my inner voice. I just saw the microphone just coming down into that spot where I normally hear my inner voice. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. Because it was able to amplify my inner voice and kind of push my mind aside a little bit. So just a little tidbit.
I love that. And like another visual that I like to use sometimes, and I use this in dance as well, is like putting my brain down into my body. Because I find that like if you think, for me, I think it also has to do with the weight. Like if you think about putting something heavy down there, then it's hard to like be like held up in this kind of like space. But if you think about really just dropping down and like putting that heaviness, that weight down lower or into whatever you feel, it helps me to really stop too. But I'm very like kinesthetic because I'm a dancer. So if you're a kinesthetic, if you're like a super feely person, that might help you.
We have a question. If I am noticing my awareness move to 2 places when I start exhaling with the intention to listen to my soul, should I go with both places? I would probably try one and then try the other and then try both. I'm probably the type that would just try all these different things to see what works. Hannah, what would you do?
Yeah, I think that's great. I think you can try both, and if that's confusing, you can try one or the other. You can really just play around with it as much as you want. It's not like, it's like we said, this is very like experimental, and it's very individualized to you because your inner voice is completely unique to you. So it's going to be something that you can play with on your own and just find whatever works the best for you. Hannah Duffy's.
I love that question.
So that last holds everything. I love that. Random words. Yes. Yeah.
Next, right now.
Yes, we're going to get into that, Jessica. Do we have anything else? Oh, yeah. So we just wanted to go over like some times when it's helpful, like when should you tap into your inner voice? These are just some examples of some times when it can be helpful. One thing that I always like to do is like the mind likes to run in circles, right? Because like we said, it's kind of that stapler. It doesn't actually really know how to solve the problem. The mind is really good for like executing. Like the way that I like to think of it is like, hopefully, not all the time, not always successful, but hopefully my inspiration behind my action comes from my inner voice, but I need my mind to actually execute the action because the inner voice can't actually go and drive my car to the grocery store because that's like my mind has to go up through and actually like, send the messages to my brain, which sends the messages to my body or whatever. But in order to get the inspiration for what we want to do, we would like that to come from the inner voice rather than the mind. So whenever you catch your mind kind of running in circles, like, oh, I don't know what to do about this, or like, what if I do this, but then this person is mad at me, but then if I don't do it, this person is mad at me, but then this person might know my mom, and then, or, whatever. Whenever you catch your mind kind of doing one of these, that's a really good time for you to send it down because your inner voice will tell you what the best option is for you. Do you have another example of a time when you like to ask questions, Nicole?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you can ask questions all day, every day about anything. My favorite time, this is going to be so silly. My favorite question to ask is when I get out of the shower in the evening, I have my little face, your face products, right? I like to ask my inner voice, which combination of face products do you want to use tonight? Like, do you want a little oil or moisturizer? Which combination do you want to use? That's my favorite question. And then you know, intuitive eating is one. Oh my gosh, you can ask your inner voice anything. Anything.
Yeah. Judy asked, is it okay to drink coffee? Yes. Well, actually, ask your inner voice.
Yeah, I would ask. Because I've heard clients say both. I've heard them say, their inner voice tell them to lay off coffee, and then I've heard coffee's okay, so.
Yeah, my inner voice, when it got asked this question once, it said, when you're drinking the coffee to stop the sleep, because inner voices, sometimes they don't speak in exact sentences. So it said, when you're drinking the coffee to stop the sleep, it's not good. But if you're drinking the coffee to like the coffee, then it's okay. Because I love coffee. And so for a while, I cut myself off from caffeine just because, like, caffeine is, like, not good for you. But then I kind of felt like I was depriving myself of this joy, you know? But so, like, the way that I found balance was my inner voice said, like, if I feel like I'm turning to caffeine to ignore my body's messages to go to sleep, then it's not good. But if I'm just turning to it because I really want to enjoy a latte, then it's fine.
I love that.
Yes, intention, totally. But again, that's like the way my inner voice answered it. You can ask. Oh, and one really important thing is that sometimes your inner voice might give you an answer, like someone said that they heard random words. And if you don't know what that means, or if you're confused by an answer, then it's really important to keep asking follow-up questions. Do you want to touch on this a little bit, Nicole? I know you're really good at asking follow-up.
I'm really passionate about follow-up questions. Oh,
Yeah.
but I guess we kind of already went into how to ask a question. Did we already?
Yeah,
kind of go
we
that?
did how to ask it. We just had
Okay.
some of the, yeah.
Just to touch on like the asking of the questions, just make sure you say inner voice and then your question is really good. Inner voice and then your question. And then, yeah, so if you get the random word, ask a follow-up. Okay, inner voice, what does this word mean to you? Or how do you define love? How do you see such and such? Like, I literally will argue, I'll debate my inner voice until, I don't want to say that I'm satisfied with the answer, but until I have an understanding, right? Because it's kind of like two friends having a conversation. I think in the beginning of my process with inner voice work, it would say something and then I just kind of walk away. But I'm learning that I didn't keep asking because I think I was afraid of the responses. So keep asking the follow-up questions. Don't be afraid. Well, try not to be afraid of the answers that you'll receive, and know that your inner voice is there for you. It wants you to understand. It only wants to support you. It wants you to understand. So ask the really good clarifying questions. Ask the follow-up questions. Don't be afraid to just dig deeper and deeper and deeper into what you want to know.
Mm-hmm. Monique said, do you ever get swayed by your mind during the process of asking your inner voice questions? And do you ever get confused between the two? Absolutely. Your mind is not going down without a fight. It's going to be constantly, you have to, like, another way, my inner voice says cradle the baby and pet the dog. So my inner voice has also told me that the dog, like, the mind is like this little, like, yippy dog that's like all over the place. And the inner voice is like the owner, right? And so we want to be able to stay in that place of being like the dog owner and being like, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, rather than jumping into the skin of the dog and being like, oh my God, but then blah, blah, blah. And it takes practice, guys. Like, Nicole said she's been doing this for, what did you say, Nicole, like 3 years, 4 years?
Yeah, whenever Jess started, yeah, the inner voice.
Yeah, same.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I would say that I have, like, that I still go back and forth. You know, it takes a lot of practice to be able. I was talking to, if anybody listens to Jess' podcast, I did an inner voice session with her a few episodes ago, and she was telling me before our session together that she feels like she's just now getting to this place of, like, fully living as her inner voice. And she's been doing this for like years and years and years. So it takes a lot of time.
Also, to that, you can ask your inner voice, you can say, inner voice, is this my mind or is this you? I would probably ask that. Inner voice, is this my mind or is this you?
Yeah. And another way, like if you get talking about getting confused, is that sometimes, especially if you're someone that's been on a spiritual journey, the mind can do a really good job of faking the inner voice. Like it can do a really good job of kind of like answering the way it thinks the inner voice would answer. So if you're a little bit confused about whether it's your mind or your inner voice, ask your inner voice to say it in a surprising way. Say, can you tell me this? Can you tell me the answer in a way that I've never heard it before? And your inner voice will give you a creative answer, and then you can say, like, what does that mean? And it will lead you into the next thing. We have a lot of questions coming in.
Good.
Do you ask it out loud or just to yourself? What do you do, Nicole? Do you ask to yourself or out loud?
I'm so happy you asked this. The way I started is by journaling. I practiced asking the question in my notebook and then getting the answer. And that works. I still use that to this day. It's like asking inner voice, yada, yada, yada. And then the answer just comes like shooting out. So I personally write mine out. Sometimes when I'm writing it, eventually I'll go, okay, let me just ask and listen. But I don't ask my questions out loud and respond out loud. But Hannah.
So I'm really good at talking, if you haven't noticed. And I like to use voice memos on my phone. So like, if you guys, I don't know if it's like, there's like a little voice memo app, and I like to just turn it on and I close my eyes, send my awareness down, breathe, and I start asking questions, and I just record all the inner voice, because my inner voice likes to talk and it's too fast for me to write sometimes. And honestly, for me, it's distracting to open my eyes to look at myself, to like watch myself writing. It's a little bit too distracting for me. So I just like to turn on the voice memo and start talking. And sometimes it'll go on for a while, but that way I can go listen back whenever I want. And I can then, when I'm listening back, I can like take some notes of really key things that I think are like nuggets that I want to keep. So there's a few different answers, depending on just the way that you like to do it. So while you're journaling, oh, that's a good question for you, Nicole. Are you exhaling the whole time you journal?
No. So I don't have to exhale too much anymore. But if I have a lot of resistance around the question, then yes, I will exhale. But journaling for me has gotten pretty, I guess, like channel journaling, like it kind of just flows out. And then Judy had a question. I have never heard an inner voice, but I sometimes relax and feel like I receive a thought that didn't come from my brain. Sometimes I'll get chills or just feel very at peace. Will I eventually hear an audible voice? This is such a good question, because your inner voice can talk to you in so many different ways. Hannah, I see you getting excited.
Segue.
Okay. Yeah, it's
Do you think that's a good segue into the ways to answer?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, go for it.
Oh, okay. So your inner voice can come in so many different ways. So it can come in words. Okay. So like little literal words, or like breathe, I love you, you're safe, you're loved. It can come in words. It can come in images or pictures. So I had a client have this beautiful analogy of a kite and being tethered to the kite, and the inner voice was like holding the kite, keeping it grounded while the kite kind of just flows with the wind. So you can get those like beautiful analogies and images, and then emotions as well. So like emotions of joy, love, and peace, emotions of the sadness, anger, the more lower emotions would be more so resistance. But you can get feelings and nudges. So it's really just kind of playing around with your own unique way that your inner voice talks to you. Hannah, you want to add on?
Well, I think you did a really good job. I would just say that, like, when you, like, I don't know if anybody in this group has done a beanbag session with one of us. I think some people probably have, but we call those kind of like lower level emotions beanbags. And so if those come out, it's a good thing because it means that your inner voice is allowing you to release them. It's blocked energy in your body. Like, basically what happens is throughout our lives, when we like have some kind of emotional trauma happen, but we're not ready to process it at that time. A lot of times when we're a kid, we don't know how to process our emotions yet. So we get this energy that blocks inside of us. And so a lot of times, like, when you start listening into your inner voice, sometimes you'll just feel these emotions come over you and you don't really understand why. But don't be afraid of it and don't shy away from it, because it's just your inner voice telling you that you're ready to release that block. And like, for people who have done RTT with me, there was a few people in here that have done RTT with me. Whenever you start crying in a session or anything like that, that's, again, it's just those are just emotions, those beanbags. Because a lot of times as we revisit the scenes in regression, they're scenes that you weren't able to emotionally process, and so your inner voice and your subconscious, they're just allowing you to process it now. So don't shy away from that if it happens to you. Yeah.
I guess to piggyback onto that, we're never going to not have emotional resistance around something unless you're like an enlightened being, right, Hannah?
Right. Yeah.
Or like Eckhart Tolle, or maybe Deepak Chopra, or one of the spiritual teachers. But yeah, so it's normal.
Esther asked, have you ever had a client whose mind got annoyed with you talking to the inner voice as a separate being? And I would say yes. I've had that happen. Or like, sometimes the mind just gets annoyed by what the inner voice says. How do you deal with it? Just really breathe into it. Like, breathe into it and just show yourself like the ultimate love and compassion. Like, that feeling of annoyance is most likely a beanbag that's like coming out to be released. So just keep breathing into it and keep your awareness there and just keep releasing it until it passes. That's what I would say. I had a client, I think 2 weeks ago now, who the mind had kind of like tricked her into thinking it was her inner voice telling her to divorce her husband. And then when we went in, we were pretty deep into the session, so she was really connected to her inner voice. And then I asked her about family and relationships, and the inner voice was like I said, okay, so is she supposed to leave the husband? Is she supposed to divorce him? And the inner voice was like one of the most resounding no's I have ever heard in a session. And it was like, she thinks that I want her to leave the husband, but I don't. And it was going off. And she released a huge beanbag of anger. Like, I could literally feel the energy of her anger. And we just do these sessions through Zoom, so we're not even like physically close to each other at all. But I could feel the energy of her anger. And like, when she was releasing it, she was like, I see pure red, I see pure red, I see pure red. But we just kept breathing through it together. And eventually it passed. And she was like, I have never felt like that kind of release before. So it can come out in many, many, many ways. I've also tried sometimes using a different term instead of inner voice. Yeah, you can use whichever term you want. Yeah, Shari, what do you use? Go ahead and type it. I'm interested too.
Whatever works, right?
Yeah. I think totally whatever works.
But even I've gotten annoyed during a session. Like, I mean, when I was the client and I was in an inner voice session, like as the client, like even my mind has gotten annoyed at a certain point in a session just because it's the mind,
Yeah, exactly.
Not wanting to be asked certain things, or I don't know. Yeah.
Yep. Beautiful, Shari and Monique. They said they use their true self, God, intuition, higher self. I think that's awesome. infinite. Oh, that's a good one, Nikki. I love that. I have been drinking water and coffee. Does anybody want to take a pee break really quick besides me? If not, you guys can keep talking and I'll just run, take a pee break and come right back.
Hannah, I'm so happy that you mentioned that. Yeah, let's take a 3-minute.
Okay, let's take like a few minutes, pee, get water if you want it, whatever you want to do, and then we'll come back and we can start going into the questions. Do you think we're ready, Nicole? Okay, perfect. We'll be right back, guys. Okay. Are we back? Looks like people are coming back. Does anybody have any last questions before we're going to go into a little section where we let you guys come down off of mute and we're just going to take turns being kind of the facilitator. So it'll alternate between Nicole and I and let you guys ask questions if you have questions that you feel like you want to ask your inner voice. But before we do that, does anybody have any last questions for class?
Well, Hannah, I don't think everybody's back yet.
Oh, sorry, guys.
It's okay.
Some people they don't have their video on, so I can't tell.
Yeah. Maybe we can give it just 2 more minutes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I do see some empty chairs. Okay, sorry. I'm like rushing ahead. But if you are back, hi, Leah. Oh, my God. I just saw my friend's baby. She's so precious. Does anybody have any questions that they want to type for us? I know she is super cute.
Can I do a little sound check? Hannah, how's my sound been?
It's been good. I think for me, it sounded good the whole, ever since kind of we just decided to roll with it. So.
Okay. Because I just don't know, like my laptop's new, so I'm just been trying to figure out, do I need to send it back? Like maybe I need to like ground my energy or something. I don't know. I'll ask my inner voice.
Yeah. Yeah, just anybody who's back, let's see how we're doing. We're still missing maybe 1 or 2. Does anybody have any other questions that they want to ask before we start letting you guys? Okay, Bethy. Sometimes I feel like I hear my inner voice just check in. I was using things like hello, love. Oh yeah, that's great.
That's so sweet. Yes. In sessions, I'll hear that usually the inner voice is always trying to communicate with us. From what I've been told in sessions, the inner voice is always trying to like give little signs and words of comfort. I love that.
Totally.
Proper names for the mind and the inner voice.
proper, oh, like separate people? Nazmeen? That's a
I love
beautiful
that.
name. Oh, I love that. That's awesome. Shari, do you mind putting yourself back on mute? I think that you came off mute. No worries, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Anybody else have any last questions before letting people come down to ask questions to one of us? Or not to ask questions to us, to ask questions to your inner voice, and we will help facilitate it. No? Do you think we're missing one person still, but maybe we should just get started so that we can get as many people in as possible.
Yes.
Do you want to go first, Nicole, facilitating?
Sure. Okay, so I think Hannah already said it, but basically what we're going to do is do like a live ask your inner voice question. So when we do this, and we did this in our certification with Jess, you can do it two ways. If you don't mind having your video on, you can have your video on, or we can all turn our videos off just to give you as much privacy as you want. So you can kind of really like get in there and just not be worried about people seeing you. So if you would like to volunteer, if you click on, I believe, participants, you can raise your hand and we can do it that way. So if anyone has a question they want to ask their inner voice, you can raise your hand and we can have you as a guest on the show. Oh, Judy. Okay, Jillian, I see your hand. Okay, Judy, you may unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hi, Judy. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Awesome. Okay, so do you have a question you'd like to ask your inner voice?
Yes. Should I just ask it right now?
Not yet. My next question is, are you okay with us seeing you, or would you like us to turn off our videos?
I don't mind having video on. It's fine.
Okay, awesome. So go ahead and get comfortable as you like. I'm gonna get comfortable too. Okay, so first thing I want you to do is just get nice and cozy, just relax. Go ahead and place your awareness in the spot where you normally hear your inner voice or your intuition. The next thing I want you to do, and you're going to keep this pretty consistent, is exhale. So anytime, good job. There you go. And we want to be able to hear your exhales over the mic. So when the mind holds a thought, it holds its breath at the same time. So if we want to get you outside of the mind, we need the mind to stop holding its breath. So you're going to consistently just exhale. And Judy, I did not ask you your question, but what is your question?
My question has to do with my current job and if it's connected to past life contracts or karma, and if I can reprogram things in a way that can free things up that have to do with my career and my current job.
Okay, so let's go back in.
Okay.
Thank you, Judy. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just go back in, get nice and comfortable. Finding the spot where you normally hear your inner voice. Dropping the awareness out of the mind. Letting it fall down into the body wherever you normally hear your inner voice. And exhaling. Anytime a thought enters your head, go ahead and just Breathe it away from your face. Exhale. Good job. Yep. The exhale can be as any way you'd like. You can sway, you can move, you can shake, whatever you need to do to release the thoughts and allow yourself to drop down into the body. Good. Inner voice, are you there? And if you don't hear anything, that's fine. Just keep breathing. Keep staying silent. And as you exhale, you're just going to listen and place your awareness into the spot where you normally hear your inner voice. Good job, Judy. Just keep those exhales consistent. There you go. Yeah, I want to be able to hear it over the microphone. Good. Inner voice, are you there?
I think so.
Mm-hmm. Hi, inner voice. Inner voice, is Judy loved?
Yes.
Is Judy safe right now, inner voice?
Yes.
Beautiful, inner voice. Inner voice, how do you see Judy's career? When you think of her career, how do you see it, inner voice?
It's not the point.
It's not the point, inner voice. What do you mean it's not the point? Good job. Good. Exhale those thoughts away. There you go.
It's not the main point of the karma that Judy's here to do in this life.
Ah, what's the point then, inner voice? Good job. Exhaling and listening. Is this the career for Judy, inner voice?
There's not a yes or a no for it.
Ah. Inner voice, is this career path her choice? Good job. If you don't hear a response, just keep breathing and exhaling. Good job. No rush. No rush. And then Judy, are you feeling any tension in the body?
I feel tingly feet.
Tingly feet. Anything else?
It feels kind of like a blanket, like someone's putting like a calming blanket over my shoulders.
Okay. So okay, that's great. That sounds lovely.
I know I have an actual blanket, but it feels different than this blanket. It feels like a lot bigger and heavier, but like cooling. It's like cooling my body.
Okay, let's do this. Let's try to connect again with your inner voice and allow just your inner voice to speak. Okay. You're doing so well. So inner voice, let me know when you're there. Dropping that awareness out of the mind, down into the body, where you normally hear your inner voice.
Okay. I feel receptive to intuition. I don't know if it's the same.
Inner voice, is that you? Are you Judy's intuition?
Yes. Wow. It's like yelling, exclamation points. Yes.
Inner voice, I only want to speak with you. Inner voice, if you could do any career, what would you do? Good job. Exhale and listen. Inner voice, without Judy's mind carrying or being attached. Inner voice, what would you do? Good. Keep exhaling. Good job.
I'm
There you
seeing
go.
an image of I'm seeing an image of like a lot of different I don't know if they're like glass bowls or jars or something, but they all have like they're open on top, like lots of rims of different containers.
Inner voice, what are these containers filled with? Are they empty?
Water, like, or I don't know.
Good job. Exhaling and listening. You're doing well, inner voice. So we see the glasses filled with water, inner voice.
There's not a lot in them right now. And I'm seeing like this now a different image of like on like a wide open plain and like like crossroads in this wide open plain.
Okay, good. Just relaxing into that image, into that feeling. Inner voice, is there any association of these images with Judy's career? Is there something that they have in common?
Yes.
Excellent. Inner voice, what do they have in common? Good job. Exhale if you feel a thought. Relaxing into that image.
Okay, so I'm getting beginning and the middle, like both beginning and the middle.
Beginning and the middle, inner voice. What is at the beginning of, inner voice?
Growing like life, like plants, growing, yeah, like tending to living things.
Beautiful. And this is in reference to Judy's job, inner voice?
It's the answer for this.
It's the answer. What's the answer, inner voice?
That Judy's in the middle of something she chose with her career. It's not the end of it, it's the middle of it. And at the same time, it's the middle of this. It's also a beginning. And they're both at the same time.
Inner voice, would you like Judy to continue on this career path?
Everything's fine and nothing drastic needs to change right away, but just to find more joy in this middle time.
Inner voice, how can Judy find more joy in her job right now?
Bring the breathe into it and bring the intuition into it. And it was really helpful when she prayed about her actual work before she started working, and to keep doing that would be good.
Beautiful inner voice. Is there anything you want to tell Judy about her career?
If you're using it as a place to have bad feelings, don't do that. And pray instead. And you're in the middle, so don't feel bad.
Inner voice. Is Judy allowed to feel bad?
Yes, but this isn't the sad thing. It's just it's like I'm seeing a maze, like going in the wrong direction in the maze with your feelings about it.
Okay, inner voice, how would you like Judy to channel her negative feelings?
Dance.
Release, inner voice?
Yeah, it's in the body.
It's in the body. All right. Should she dance tonight?
Yes.
Do you want her to listen to music?
Yes.
What kind?
Drums. Drum beat.
Oh, okay. Can she do that, inner voice?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, inner voice.
Thank you.
That was great. How was it, Judy?
It was interesting. I had a lot of different sensations. At one point, I felt this light in my, like above my third eye and in it. And I was like, am I supposed to go in there? That was really interesting. And sometimes I was like, is this a thought? And then I would just see images like that I didn't think of. And I was like, I didn't make that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you.
Wow, thank you.
So willing to share and, be vulnerable and allow us to just experience your journey in this little mini session that we just had.
Thank you. Thanks for holding the space with me, everybody.
No.
Beautiful, Judy. That was wonderful. Okay, I see Jessica and Bessie have their hands raised. Did someone raise their hands first? Or we probably have time to do both. Okay. Let's do Jessica. Jessica, why don't you unmute yourself? Oh, Beth was first. Okay, sorry, Beth.
She was.
Sorry. Jessica, your name is up first on my little list, so I just said that one first. But Beth, come on.
Was first.
Hi, Beth. How are you?
And I actually do think Jessica was first, so it's up to her if she wants me to go ahead and go or not.
She's saying you. It's your time. All right. So do you have a specific question that you would like to avoid?
Yes, I want to know why I haven't been feeling as content, and like if I should be feeling content.
Okay, perfect. And do you want to go off video, or are you okay being on video?
Video's fine.
Okay, perfect. So go ahead and close your eyes, and again, place that awareness down in the place of your body where you've heard your inner voice. And then perfect. And then just start big exhales. Beautiful. Yes, beautiful job. We'll just take a few minutes exhaling to let your awareness sink down. And just as a reminder, your inner voice may speak to you through words. And if you hear words, you can just say them exactly as you hear them. So you don't need to add in any little extra words, because that's just kind of the mind trying to squeeze its way into our conversation. So if you hear any words, like if you hear I love you, you can say I love you. You don't have to say like I hear I love you. And if you see pictures, you can say I see whatever. Or Judy did a really good job of doing that. And if you feel any emotions rise up, just let me know and we can breathe through them together. So inner voice, do you love Beth?
so much.
Yeah. How much do you love her?
Infinitely.
Yeah. Is there anything she could ever do that would make you love her less?
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah. What if she murdered someone in her voice?
It would be a choice. It doesn't mean she's not worthy of love.
Beautiful. What about, could she do something that would make you love her more?
Love just is. It can't be more.
Yeah. Love it. So inner voice, does Beth need to feel content right now?
She has everything she really wants. She just feels pressure.
Where does the pressure come from in her voice?
Her mind.
And what does the mind think that it wants in her voice?
Her mind's funny. It wants exactly what she has and then yet makes up things that she would want that she doesn't even actually want. It's funny.
Yeah, the minds are kind of funny like that, huh?
Yes.
The minds aren't very good at being content, are they?
No, she's everything she has is just what she wants, and she's just flowed here, and it's so beautiful, and yet she always makes up things that aren't even true.
How do you see her life in her voice?
It's beautiful. It's full of love. It's full of children and gardening, and she has so much love around her. She's exactly where she should be. She always feels there should be more, but this is it. Maybe there'll be more later, but for now, she's exactly where she should be.
How could we help the mind of Beth feel more at ease in her voice?
Breathe, allow, slow way down.
In what parts of her life should she slow way down?
Daily,
What does that look like to you in her voice?
just allow her days to crash over her, and I literally saw like the ocean and just the idea of like, the waves crashing and seeing where they fall, because every time the waves come up, they fall at a different part of the shore.
Beautiful. I love that image in her voice. Is there like a physical sensation that you could give Beth in her body for when she starts to kind of get this agitation, and then that could give her a sign to kind of calm down? Could you give her like a physical sensation that's kind of like her reminder?
Of course.
What would that be in her voice?
I send her pictures of flowers.
And what do the flowers mean to you?
She loves flowers. They always make her happy. Sometimes I send her pictures of them, and she just will hopefully start realizing that that's just the moment to breathe and allow.
Yeah. And in the moments of breath, should she just stop whatever she's doing and start breathing? Or what does that look like for you? Should she go outside and garden more, or what does it look like?
She should breathe, but she should also notice tiny things.
Like what?
Just tiny things, like the way her kid's hair falls, or the way a bug looks on like an insect, or the way a cloud looks, just the tiniest, most beautiful thing she could just see in that moment.
Beautiful. That's beautiful in her voice. Is there anything else you want Beth to know about feeling content?
That it's okay to feel content.
Yeah, she's allowed to, isn't she?
Yes, she's allowed to. She never thinks she is, but she's allowed to just be happy.
Yeah. Is Beth worthy of happiness in her voice?
Everyone's worthy. She's worthy.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much, inner voice. Beautiful job, Beth. Your connection is like.
I've done some of this before, but never with someone asking questions. And for some reason, that was so much easier. Like, I got so tingly and it was just so quick, and I wasn't expecting that. Usually it takes forever.
Yes, and I love the
Someone else
flowers on your shirt.
to sink in, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really beautiful when you have someone breathing with you too, I think.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. And thanks for everyone for holding space with each other. I think this group is like super badass. Okay, now Jessica. Oh, yeah.
I was going to explain why it's easier with a facilitator, because when you're doing it on your own, you're having to like literally yo-yo back and forth from your mind down, mind down, mind down. And with a facilitator, you don't have to do that. Like, we just hold a space for you and we play the role of the mind. And so you're just able to just literally stay in your inner voice and stay constant in that stream. So yeah. All right, Hannah. Oh shoot, did I freeze?
Be unfair. But if Jillian was first, then Jillian, why don't you come off mute and go with Nicole, and then Jessica will do with you next.
Okay, I froze for a bit, Hannah, so what's happening?
Oops, wait a second. I was just saying that I think like I'm looking at people whose hands are raised, and I think I'm seeing them in a weird order, because I keep calling people out of order. So I was just letting people know that I'm not trying to like be skipping anyone. So I think Jillian is next with you.
Jillian, okay. Awesome. Jillian, would you like to, you can unmute yourself. Hi, Jillian, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. I want to apologize to Jess. I raised my physical hand, could not figure that thing out. So I did it late.
It's fine. No problem. Alrighty, are you okay with leaving your video on?
Sure.
Okay. And what's your question?
Okay, it's similar to Judy's. I have recently graduated from a 10-month coaching certification.
Awesome.
But I still have my 9 to 5 because I'm terrified of leaving it. I have major scarcity thoughts and money fears, which I logically know are in the mind. So I would like to get some authentic inner voice direction on if I'm good with leaving and starting this new journey.
All right, let's do it. Okay. Go ahead and get comfortable. All right, go ahead and place your awareness into the spot where you normally hear your inner voice. So wherever you normally hear your inner voice. And I want you to begin to exhale. And just keep those exhales consistent. And every time your mind thinks a thought, just blow the thought away. Blow it away from the face. And just kind of bobble down out of the mind, placing your awareness into the spot where you normally hear your inner voice. Just allowing the energy to fall down into the body. Inner voice, are you there? And if you don't hear anything, just keep breathing, just keep exhaling.
Yes.
Good job. Just relaxing down into that yes. Inner voice, is Jillian safe?
Yes.
Good job. Good breath. That was a very good breath. Is she loved and held right now?
Yes.
Good job. Inner voice, how do you see money?
Money is energy.
Good
It
job.
is also just energy. Jillian has a lot of meanings around it.
Inner voice, if we were to place this energy on a plate, this money energy on the plate in front of you, and we're going to send this plate down to you. So far away from Jillian's mind and down deeper into you, inner voice. When you look at this plate with the money and the energy, how do you see it?
I'm seeing I'm seeing fruit.
A fruit. Is this a fruit platter, inner voice?
Yes.
Inner voice, what kind of fruits are on this platter?
I see berries, I see mangoes. It's all made from the earth.
Inner voice, how is the fruit connected to the energy of money?
It's energy from the earth. It's made of the earth, which is also the energy of Jillian and the energy of all beings.
Is this fruit and this nourishment and this money energy and inner voice, is it available to Jillian?
Always.
Can she have as much as she wants?
Absolutely.
Ah, really, inner voice. Is it ever going to dry up?
Jillian is resisting this.
Good. Let's allow Jillian to breathe it away. Breathe it away. Just dropping that plate a little lower, inner voice. Just so you can respond to this question. Send Jillian's mind on a vacation. Inner voice, can Jillian have as much fruit as she wants?
Yes.
Can she have as much money as she wants?
Yes.
How, inner voice? Good job. Blow the thoughts away. Inner voice, I only want to speak to you. Jillian can have as much fruit on this platter as she wants.
Yes.
We know she deserves it, inner voice. How can we allow her to embody that feeling, inner voice, that belief?
By detaching from the limiting stories, by shifting the idea of money being something external, and by embracing the belief that it is energy, and by tapping into her innate worthiness.
Good job. Inner voice, is she worthy of this money?
Yes.
Why, inner voice? Why is Jillian worthy of this money?
She was born that way.
Really, inner voice?
Yes.
Beautiful. She was born this way. Are all humans born with this just abundance?
Yes.
Inner voice, is Jillian ready to leave her 9 to 5? Good job. Just breathe. Breathe and listen.
Oh, the mind is loud.
Good. Breathe it away. You're doing so well. Let's do this. Good job. Where are you feeling the resistance in the body or tension?
In the mind.
In the mind. Any particular spot in the mind?
It's actually kind of the back.
Oh, let's go to the back, inner voice. This is good. This is just an emotional beanbag, just resistance. Nothing abnormal. She's totally safe. We know she's loved. Let's place the awareness into the back. And inner voice, now you're going to direct the breaths into the back. Inner voice, if you were to rate the intensity of the back from a 1 to a 10, what would you rate it?
8.
An 8, inner voice. Okay. So we're going to breathe into this 8 into the back, just directing your breaths into the back. This is just emotional resistance around money, around job, career, which is absolutely normal because it's important to Jillian, inner voice. Keep directing those breaths into the back. We're going to think of this 8 in the back as this big old watermelon, inner voice. And every time she breathes into the back, it's slowly decreasing that resistance. And it's going to slowly, slowly decrease. Keep breathing into the back. The more of this resistance we can decrease, the better. We're just clearing out that channel, that pipe, so she can connect deeper into you, inner voice. Inner voice, if you were to scan the back now, what number would it be at?
It's lessening to a 6, maybe a 5.
Good, just keep going. Getting it as low as we can. If we can get it to a 0, that's great. But getting it as low as we can. Inner voice, is Jillian ready to leave her 9 to 5 today? Good job. Breathing into the back. Inner voice, do you feel an answer?
She promised a coworker that she would look after her projects while she was on maternity leave. This person is a friend. So she wants to do right by that friend and not abandon her. Because Jillian knows what it feels like to be abandoned.
If she didn't have to worry about the friend, would it be a yes or a no?
It'd be an absolute yes.
I got a yes too, so that's why I asked. 1 second. Inner voice. How would you like Jillian to handle this promise she made to her friend?
I want her to continue to feel into my voice. I want her to listen. And follow through with what she said she was going to follow through, because the intention is pure, the intention is good. The intention is not rooted in fear, which Jillian thought it was, but it's not. And the fear that Jillian has of her purpose not still being there in August is not true. She can have the intention of following through with what she told her friend she would do, but still tap in to my voice to make sure that she's still on the right path. But to know and to let go of the fear that this fruit plate, this purpose might be gone, might be moldy, might be not there anymore if she waits, is not real. It is energy, and energy is everywhere. And it is cultivated from within. It starts within first.
Inner voice, will you let Jillian know when it's time for her to leave her job?
Yes.
Will you make it absolutely clear, inner voice?
Yes.
You promise, inner voice.
Yes.
Thank you, inner voice.
Thank you.
I love that image of like the fruit getting moldy. That was like so beautiful. I love when the inner voice can like play with its own imagery that way.
Yeah, that was wild. I've never experienced imagery like that, ever.
So beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jillian. What do you think, Nicole? Should we where our time is pretty much up, but are people okay if we let Jessica, because I've been teasing her about coming down this whole time, if we let Jessica ask her question and then we can wrap up after that? Is that okay with everyone?
Let's put in our the way that we want to give the discount in the chat in case anyone needs to leave. So
yeah,
for me, just DM me and I'll put my Instagram.
Yeah, well, why don't we can just type our Instagrams and then
we're both doing 20%. As of last night, I actually changed my prices, so I'm going to honor the price that I had when you all originally signed up. So just ignore the price that you see on my website right now and DM me and say, hey, I was at the workshop and I got you.
Yes. So my Instagram is in the chat, and then on my, if you go to my like link tree, it'll say like schedule a session, and then you can use that code intro in all caps 20, and then you'll get a 20% discount off an inner voice session. All right. Let's have Jessica come down if you have time. Are you good to go?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, are you okay with staying on video, or do you want to turn video off?
I'm cool with video.
Okay, perfect. What's your question for your inner voice?
I feel like I've muddied it up because I've been asking it throughout this whole time, but it's kind of if we should stay living where we are, or if I should be making active choices to get us out of the city that we live in, out of Orange County.
Okay, beautiful. So let's close our eyes and just go ahead and start sending that awareness down. Start the exhales. And I don't think we said this, but if you feel the need to like or make any kinds of noises, totally feel free. And just remember, if your inner voice wants to show you pictures, that's totally fine, and you can just tell me you're seeing a picture. If it's telling you words, you can just say those words exactly the way you hear them. And if it brings out any emotions, we'll just breathe right through those like Jillian and Nicole did super beautifully. Inner voice, do you love Jessica?
Of course.
How much do you love Jessica, inner voice?
This big.
Beautiful. Inner voice, are you always with her?
Always.
Have you ever not been with her?
No, and she knows that.
Beautiful. Are you going to be with her forever and ever?
Of course.
Yeah. Is she safe here, inner voice?
Yes.
Good. Inner voice, how do you feel about where Jessica lives in Orange County?
It gets the job done, but it's temporary.
So is it time for her and her family, or for her and her loved ones, to move, to leave Orange County?
Maybe so, maybe not.
How? Yes.
I see the word depends.
Depends. What does it depend on for you, inner voice?
If she really needs to keep trying to find happiness somewhere else.
Can she find happiness in Orange County, inner voice?
Yes, and she has.
Okay. So what would make it time to leave, inner voice?
Just a pure desire for something new.
And do you feel that desire for something new, inner voice?
No.
No, you don't feel that desire. So is the desire in the mind?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Is it okay if Jessica listens to the desire in the mind in her voice?
Yeah, it'll work either way.
Okay, so she really can't go wrong here.
Yeah, no matter what, it'll work out.
Yeah. So inner voice, if Jessica decides to move, where do you want her to go? Or how do you want her to choose where to go?
She knows. She knows. The only option is down south.
Down south. Okay. But the mind of Jessica knows exactly what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. And if like the time does come for her to move, can you give her like a sign or a signal that it'll be time?
I keep hearing it's not time yet.
Okay. So it's not time right now. How could Jessica's mind find more contentment in Orange County? Because we know you're content. So how could we help her mind find more contentment there?
Check in with me more often.
When should she check in with you, inner voice?
Nighttime.
Nighttime. Beautiful. How should she check in? Do you want her to journal? Do you want her to talk? Do you want her to meditate? How should she check in?
Breath.
Just breathing, that's it?
Breath and journal.
Okay, beautiful. And does she have to do that for any specific amount of time, or is it just until it feels good?
Just a quick check-in.
Lovely. Is there anything else you want Jessica to know about being content in Orange County, inner voice?
It is what you make it.
Yeah. Are you proud of Jessica, inner voice?
Always.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to tell her right now?
It's all good.
Beautiful. Thank you, inner voice. How do you feel, Jessica?
A little emotional because that's not how I wanted it to go.
Yeah, the mind has like super projections.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to breathe into the emotions for a little bit? No, you're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing with us and coming down.
Thank you guys.
All right. I think that kind of wraps us up, Nicole. Do you think so?
Yeah. I'd love to hear y'all's feedback and just thank you so much. I think I'm feeling floaty. No.
Yeah, me too. I'm like,
so, gonna have to go float off. But it was a pleasure, and we put our Instagram so that there's multiple ways to contact us. I look forward to getting to know you all even more and just seeing how this unfolds. Let's have a session.
yes, absolutely. And Holly had to run, so she's not on the call anymore, but I just wanted to for Shari's question, Nicole, maybe what you could do is send the recording to Holly, and then Holly can send it out to everyone.
Yeah, I'm sending it to her.
Perfect. Holly had to jump off, but I just want to thank Holly anyways for letting us run this event through this space. And if any of you guys are people who host workshops or are interested in hosting workshops in the future, Holly has this space, which is both a physical and a virtual space, and she helped us with advertising the event and sending out emails and obviously like coordinating things. So she's a beautiful, beautiful person to work with. And she, if you follow the space, I'll put their Instagram on here too. The Space LC. That's her. That's kind of her business page, and she hosts all kinds of workshops and stuff on there. So I encourage everyone to go jump on there. Starting a Facebook group. Oh.
I'm not really on Facebook. I thought about doing a Slack, but we'll see. Stay tuned.
Yeah. I love to reconnect. Yeah. Well, maybe other people could also drop their Instagrams in or something like that too. If that feels if people are interested. I'm most active on Instagram. That's why I say I'm not like super, I have a Facebook, but I'm not super active on it. I mainly use them. So if people want to drop that, I would love to connect with all of you guys there. And we can all connect there. Perfect. I think I have most of you guys already. I don't know if I have Shart. Wonderful. Thank you guys so much. Oh my gosh, look, it's 11:11. We're ending at 11:11. I love it so much.
This time it's 1:11, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but yeah, that's still really cool.
Yeah, 1:11, 11:11. That's awesome.
Okay, guys, thank you so much, and stay tuned for future workshops. If you're interested in doing a one-on-one session with either of us or both of us, you can hop on and use that discount code to get a little discount. And yeah, we can't wait to continue to just grow with you all. And if you ever have questions, you can DM either one of us, I'm sure, like about inner stuff or whatever. Anything else you want to add, Nicole, before we sign off? I want to take a little picture for my
Okay, you can take a picture.
Instagram.
I just want to say love everyone. Just thank you for being patient with my technology malfunction.
Yeah. I'm just going to take a picture. Everybody hold up a heart or a hand or something. Yay! Love it. Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend.